Perfect. We are on page 24, halfway down. There is a solution, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. The almost certain consequences that follow taking even a glass of beer do not crowd into the mind to deter us. If these thoughts occur, they are hazy and readily supplanted with the old threadbare idea that this time we shall handle ourselves like other people. There is a complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove. The alcoholic may say to himself in the most casual way, "It won't burn me this time, so here's how." Or perhaps he doesn't think at all. How often have some of us begun to drink in this nonchalant way, and after the third or fourth, pounded on the bar and said to ourselves, "For God's sakes, how did I ever get started again?" Only to have that thought supplanted by the, "Well, I'll stop at the sixth drink," or "What's the use, anyhow?" When this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid, and unless locked up, may die or go permanently insane. These stark and ugly facts have been confirmed by legions of alcoholics throughout history. But for the grace of God, there would have been thousands more convincing demonstrations. So many want to stop, but cannot. So I definitely was one of those ones who said, this is how I'm going to do it differently this time. Tonight I'm going to drink white wine, not red wine. I'm not going to have any shooters because then I'm not going to get totally drunk. Or I'm going to stay away from those girly, sugary drinks because that sugar kills me every time. It's going to be different. It's going to be different. Oh, I'm only going to take $5 with me to the bar because that'll be good. I just have my $5 to get home. I'm just going to dance. It's going to be fine. Yeah, no, I got ways of getting drinks that you don't even know, right? Charlene.
Hi, Charlene, alcoholic. I had that second paragraph that you read highlighted because my thing is saying I'm an adult, and if I want to drink, I'll drink. And who am I convincing? Who am I saying that to? Like, hello? And then the insanity piece that goes along with that, may die or go permanently insane. I definitely reached the going insane piece as well. So that's all I got for that.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other ladies? June?
Yeah, I'm June. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I could relate with that so much because every time I went out to the bar, I did the same thing. You know, I'd bring so much money with me, but I always planted myself next to the guys that looked like they were going to buy me a drink. And then at the end of the night, I'd say, well, I'm just going to have one more. And then I'd look at him and he'd say, oh, he'd buy me one. So then, the party was on. So that one more led on to more and more and more. So that was me, definitely. By the end of the night, I was passed out, drunk, and blacking out. So yes, I can relate with that. Totally.
Absolutely. Susan?
I'm unmuted. Hi, I'm Susan, alcoholic. I like that last part there where it says, places himself beyond human aid and unless locked up may die or go permanently insane. Now, for me, as I've said, my last drink was the cops pulling me out of my car and I'm drinking the drink. And I did not see the light of day for 287 days. So that was my my little treatment center there. I went to jail, and I might have died if I did not go to jail that time. And I believe that was what had to happen because I could not stop on my own. And that was when I was separated from alcohol for the last time. Thank you, God. But you wouldn't have heard me say that when I got taken to jail. So, yes, that could happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace?
Yeah. Hi. Yes, I'm Grace. The thing that stuck out for me was, when you try to talk yourself in or out of something, and I often did that, for all kinds of reasons. That it didn't make sense that I should not go out and drink tonight. It didn't make sense that I should, have a problem with that. It made no sense that I shouldn't have a couple of martinis before dinner every night. It didn't make sense. Everybody does these things. But when it said, for God's sake, how did I ever get started again? I didn't ever think about that till I was on my way home. And I would be on my way home. I would be drunk. I would feel sick. And I would say to myself, how the hell did this happen again? I had all intentions of going out and this not happening again. And it kept on happening. And, you know, and it's funny because in the beginning I used to think, you know how they talked about high bottom drunks and low bottom drunks? And I used to find great consolation in thinking I wasn't a low bottom drunk, you know, until I had to think of all the crazy things I did. And I thought, everybody's bottom is your low bottom, no matter who you are, that's it for you. You talked about, Susan, about the jail thing. That's also, you know, when you talk about, you know, permanently insane or locked up or whatever, I used to tell parents that I treated, they would go time and time again and bail their kids out of jail. And, you know, they thought that would be the worst thing in the world. And I used to say, you know what? It might not be. That may be the only way they're going to get any time sober enough to clear their minds and perhaps accept some kind of help. That's the bullshit.
Absolutely. And, you know, mine wouldn't be on the way home from the bar. Mine would be the next morning. I'd be like, how did I spend $500 last night? And why am I so hungover? Like, how do I get that money back? Oh, I can't. Oh, so bad. Connie.
Hi, good morning. Glad to see you all here. My name's Connie and I'm an alcoholic. And on page 20 in that italics a little bit just before this, it says, we are unable, there's a sentence that says, we are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We were without defense. And then it says the almost certain consequences that follow taking you. And so there's this, I don't remember the suffering and humiliation. I remember what I call now the romanticizing it. And I have to still be careful about that today because things can look luscious and it can look fun and the party at times. And that's my emotions. And I will harbor on that, just like, you know, you harbor on that selfishness, it just gets human, you know, and I have to have something to break that. And sometimes that's a phone call. That's that pause. That's that breath. That's that reaching out. That's that memory and stuff like that. So hopefully what I do here is I keep remembering. That's why it's important for me to go over stuff because my ideas go here and there, you know. And this keeps me balanced and settled to remember that. Don't romanticize that because remember, play that one. Play the video forward, and it's like, oh yeah, you know what did happen at the end of that, you know. So, anyways, there's always tools for help. And thanks. Good to see you out here. Good morning.
Good morning. And that's one of the amazing things about this program too is the way we're working with others. Like every girl I've ever worked with that's coming in, it's a reflection of me. So I get to see that and I'm like, oh, yep, that was me. Oh, I remember those days. So I'm constantly being reminded of my old behaviors. The iPhone user with the San Francisco Bridge in the back.
I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for everybody being here. Yeah, I was just thinking when you said change from the red to the white or the whatever, I was just thinking back to the time that I just got these little beer bottles full of white wine as opposed to the big ones because I was living alone and I'd moved out of my normal surroundings, but it just from loneliness and I just didn't know how to stop. So the little ones were supposed to be making me feel better, but I didn't really need any. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
I'm Trish.
Yeah, I added it to your username. Mel.
Yeah, I've just got here that this shows how we try and do it on willpower alone and think we can manage it, and it just sort of refreshes it to us that we are totally powerless, and then we need a spiritual awakening to get anywhere from this state. That's all I've got.
Perfect. Jamie.
Hey, I'm Jamie and I'm an alcoholic. I was just kind of like what Mel was talking about. What really stood out to me, especially the first time I read this, was when it says when this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, he probably placed himself beyond human aid. And then it, goes on to say so many want to stop but cannot. And that I literally had the same exact experience where I went to an event where I knew I could not embarrass myself. Like I just knew I was not going to be able to embarrass myself this time. So I told myself going into it, I can't do this. And then of course, end of the night, I humiliated myself completely, and had that same feeling of like, oh my God, like I told myself I wouldn't do this. And that was actually enough to keep me white knuckling for 90 days. But like it says, so many want to stop, but cannot, that it was beyond human power. Even though I was able to white knuckle it for 90 days, I eventually still came back to the drink because it was beyond my power to stop myself. That craving came back and that insanity came back before I got to the program. So that was really powerful for me. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do one more. Just Valerie got her hand in there right at the last minute.
Hi, I'm Valerie, alcoholic. I'm so glad we're doing this. I don't recall doing a lot of drinking at home, but like on the way home from work, stopping into a bar and then knowing what I wanted and put it on the bar. And that was in a lesbian bar. And then when I'd go out with my mom, one of the last times I did, and I never even thought that any of this craziness was abnormal. I got a DUI and crashed a car at 16, and at that time they just said, well, if your friend drives away, you can drive away, and it's just crazy. And so one of the last times I was supposed to be the designated driver with my mom and my grandma, and they all partied, and then there's the old guys at the local bar buying me drinks and outside issues. And it was horrible, and I still never thought it was any kind of problem. It was just so weird until a friend I called went into the program, and then it opened my eyes. Growing up with all this drinking growing up, and I didn't want to be like them, but I still never ever thought and knew what AA was or that what I was doing was off the hook or anything. It's crazy. Anyway, thank you.
Totally. Yeah, that I didn't know blacking out wasn't a normal thing. Everybody did that. Nope, they didn't. Apparently not. All right, moving on to the best 4 words in the book. Page 25. There is a solution. Almost none of us liked the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings, which the process requires for its successful consummation. But we saw that it really worked in others, and we had come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as we had been living it. When therefore we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into a 4th dimension of existence of which we had not even dreamed. The great fact is just this, and nothing less, that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences, which have revolutionized our whole attitude toward life, toward our fellows, and toward God's universe. The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. He has commenced to accomplish those things for us which we could never do by ourselves. If you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe there is no middle-of-the-road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible, and if we had passed into the region from which there was no return through human aid, we had but 2 alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could, and the other to accept spiritual help. Now, before we go and discuss that, I think we should turn to page 567 if you are in the 4th edition, and we will read the spiritual experience because it goes part and parcel with this page. So, page 567 in the 4th edition. Spiritual experience. The terms spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which, upon careful reading, shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yet it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experiences must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous. In the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described. Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate or overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change in feeling and outlook. Among our rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, though frequent, are by no means the rule. Most of our experiences are what psychologist William James called the educational variety, because they develop slowly over a period of time. Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference long before he is himself. He finally realizes he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life, that such a change would hardly have been brought about by himself alone. What often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline. With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of a spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problems in the light of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial. We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable. There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. Herbert Spencer. So I'm going to talk quickly on the spiritual experience and my experience with the spiritual experience, which, I have had that spiritual awakening. I have had the complete personality change sufficient to bring about my recovery, and as a result, I am a recovered alcoholic, and that is through working this program. I had the educational variety, but in my thoughts, I wasn't open-minded, I wasn't honest, and I wasn't completely willing. And I believe that's why I didn't have a sudden experience. From reading this book as many times as I have, those people who have had the sudden spiritual awakening, they all were 100% open-minded, willing, and honest, and therefore had that immediate effect. I had the educational variety because I was a little bit of a slow learner on being 100% willing, open-minded, and honest. So I had an educational variety where I had to become willing, open-minded, and honest. And now back to page 25. And when we are discussing, you can discuss on both the spiritual experience and page 25 because they go part and parcel. There is a solution here. This is the purpose of this book, is to give us the solution based on the first 100 people. I love when it says, when we are approached by those with whom the problem had been solved. I sat in a lot of rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and listened to people who had not gotten a spiritual awakening try to give me the solution, and I didn't have that result as a result. So when I was brought forth people who did have the problem solved, it made it easier for me to get this program. And that's that middle of the road recovery it talks. There is no middle of the road solution. This is an all in or all out. And I sat in middle of the road recovery for a really long time. So I really like this page. Another thing that I have highlighted and circled is the laid at our feet. I had the wrong impression for a long time. And, I had that envelope. They gave me that envelope when I came in my first meeting with all the lists of the phone numbers. Call us. And I let that envelope sit in a drawer for 14 months because I didn't have anything laid at my feet. I had it handed to me in my hand and I threw it in a drawer because my head was down. I had no confidence. I had no ability to call someone. So it was pointed out to me, to my sponsor, when I was seeking a new sponsee after I had done my step 12. I'm like, nobody calls me. He's like, have you called anybody? I'm like, no. I keep giving everybody my phone number and nobody calls me. He's like, nobody's going to call you. A newcomer is not going to call you. You need to call them. We need to lay these tools at their feet because their heads are down when they come in. They're not confident. They're not able to approach us. So I always get newcomers' phone numbers so that I can, and I tell them, I'm going to call you. I'm going to check up on you. Be ready. So there's lots more good stuff in there. Talks about all sorts of stuff. So let's open it up because we got a ton of hands up. Bev.
Hi. How is everybody today? Sorry I missed the noon meeting. But I was running around. So I'll get to it quickly because I got a couple of things to say. First of all, yes, there is a solution and it's in this book. And I am so grateful that it was handed to me and laid at my feet, and it was given freely and willingly. And when I did get here this time, which was 2005, I had tried before. I had not tried before. And when I got here this time, I had been given that gift of desperation. But the thing that I find very ironic, or maybe not, it's because we're alcoholics, life was becoming impossible, and we had passed into the region from which there was no return through human aid. We had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could, and the other to accept the kit of spiritual tools. Well, to accept spiritual help. It's funny, as an alcoholic, it's like this. Do I accept it or do I keep going? And I knew at that point it was a struggle in my head, and I knew I wanted to accept it, but I knew I couldn't quit drinking alone. And I hadn't gotten the we part that well yet. I came in pretty much in a fog, and the fog had to clear, and I had to be told what to do, almost when to get up, when to brush my teeth, when to go to a meeting, those kind of things. But it's just, to me, very odd that, as an alcoholic, many of us do pick, not those of us sitting here, but many alcoholics do pick going on to the bitter end. And then my experience with the spiritual experience and spiritual awakening is that I have had many, many spiritual experiences along the way before I did get that spiritual awakening. I had to complete the steps before the awakening came. And like Kim said, mine was of the educational variety. And it was not because I was not open-minded and willing, because I certainly was, and I did become honest fairly quickly, because I didn't come in that way. But it was because I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't ready for that complete psychic change that we get once we finish steps 1 through 12. And for me, it was when I got my first sponsee, even though she didn't stay sober, that experience of going through the steps again with another woman, then my spiritual awakening came. But all the little experiences along the road, like at the third step, when those third step promises came true for me and I had a new employer and I could look the world in the eye at the fifth step, and the 9th step promises and the 10th step promises. There's promises all through the book. both good and bad. I mean, it tells us what happens if we don't use the book. But yeah, I am grateful to have had that spiritual awakening, and I am really grateful. I have a sponsee. She's not in the same town I am, but she's celebrating 9 years today, and I've been with her the entire time. And I am so grateful that she's in my life. And she called me today in a very bad way, but just to know that through the phone connection, I could hand her some more spiritual tools to work with for the rest of the day was really, I don't know. It's overwhelming. So let somebody else talk now.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Bev. And yeah, this as we continue to grow along spiritual lines, we keep having these amazing spiritual experiences that just keep appearing. And it's like, that's that growth spiritually. Charlene.
Oh, hey, Charlene, alcoholic. I thought you were going to pick someone else first. I guess I'm going to start with the quote by Herbert Spencer, the end there, contempt prior to investigation, basically just means having a conclusion before you have all of the facts. And what I've learned through this program of AA is that I'm never going to have all of the facts. Therefore, I'm never going to completely reach a conclusion. So what I need to do, and what is important, is to pause, listen, understand, and gain the facts that I need in order to help a newcomer, in order to help a new person. There's so much packed into this page 25. Starting at there is a solution. It can be simplified in what I wrote here is this entire page is fire, exclamation mark. It's crucial, exclamation mark. You must understand this. God is so good. I was having a really, really rough couple of days. And you know what? That's okay. That's going to happen to me. I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to suffer some days, but what am I going to do with that suffering? What am I going to do with that? I have the spiritual experience. I believe in God. I believe that God is guiding me and, showing me the way. There's a solution, Char. Here it is. It's written for you in a big book. It's written for you in the Bible, so on and so forth. But what am I going to do with that? Am I going to lay down and self-pity? Oh, woe is me. I can only do that for so long until I go back out there and I drink again. And where did God lead me today? He led me to you guys, to this big book, to this page 25. There is a solution. How absolutely incredible is that? I just keep getting goosebumps, and that's what I live for. I've noticed that once I reach a day of contentment, I love it. I sit in contentment, and I'm just, this is wonderful. It's a high. It's an absolute high. But, I guess that's that pink cloud that everyone talks about. I always say, I don't have that pink cloud. I don't have that. But that for me is contentment. I sit in contentment and I'm good. And, once I get out of that, I suffer and nothing is good for me. And, what is happening? I want to reach contentment again. But, that's not what I need. I need to continue to get up, pray, put in the work, frame my day, send my message. My message isn't going to be the same as everyone else's message. You all have an individual message to share, so I think finding that and finding your own facts to just help the next person along is really, really crucial and important. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Charlene. Vicky D.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vicky. I'm an alcoholic. And I'd first like to thank all you ladies for your experience, strength, and hope, because I need it. But what caught me, I have a lot highlighted on page 25. And I have, I believe it's the second paragraph, about halfway through. The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. He has commenced to accomplish those things for us which we could not do by ourselves. And on the side, I have a note that says through working the steps. And for me, that is absolutely true. The more I'm here, the more my spiritual connectedness is happening. I don't have this bright white light experience. It's gradual and day by day. But, by going through the book and doing the steps, I'm finding I'm at peace. I have that peace within me. And yeah, like I said, it's all right here. I don't even, I'm not good at sharing, so don't mind me. So that's about all I have right now. But thanks for letting me share.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Everybody's good at sharing in our own way. Shira.
Hi, I'm Shira. I'm an alcoholic. I haven't shared yet at this meeting because I lost my original big book, so all my notes are gone, and it's really sad. But I'm grateful that I have a new one because I get to fill it with all this new information. So I learned this thing where if I'm nervous about sharing or if I don't know what I'm going to say, I breathe in God and breathe out self, and it really helps me. So the spiritual experience is super important to read, and sometimes we even forget that it's there because it's just a little appendix. But it reminded me that I used to think I didn't have a spiritual experience because I didn't know about that page and I didn't know that it could have been something small. But for me, the first spiritual experience that I had that I remember was there was something that I couldn't let go of, and I wasn't fully honest about what I wasn't fully honest with my sponsor yet, and I was just getting ready to learn how to be honest. And I called her and I was like crying, and I was trying so hard to let go of this thing that was killing me. And she said, I didn't yet at that point pray on my knees. And she was like, just fall on your knees and just start praying and ask for the willingness to let go. And the minute she said that, I started bawling because I knew that's what I needed to do. And I felt like I went to the bathroom at work and I fell on my knees and I was bawling and I prayed so hard. And it was the first time that I felt my higher power in my heart. And sorry, I'm crying because I just remember it so clearly. And that was 4.5 years ago. And he's my higher power has been in my heart ever since. And sometimes I forget he's there, but lately I've been working so hard on my spiritual self and working on my relationship with my higher power and having a lot of growth with everything else in my life. And reading and coming to this meeting and reading There's a Solution is reminding me so hard, especially even when we read the other day, just to write period at the end of There is a Solution, is that there is a solution, period. There is one, and as long as we do what's in the book and we work the steps, we will be okay. And thank you so much for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Shira. And I always look for the silver lining, and I think maybe God planted you in a new room with some new people with a fresh big book to get a new outlook, and I love it. It gives me chills. I'm so glad you found us. Connie.
Hi there, my name's Connie and I'm an alcoholic. And I love this spiritual aspect of Alcoholics Anonymous because it's got depth and weight, that it talks about a program of depth and weight and vastness. And one time in the Grapevine, which is a great source of carrying the message of AA, it's for alcoholics by alcoholics. And there was a little blurb in upcoming events, and it was in Canada someplace. This was a couple of years ago, and it was a little blurb of upcoming events, and it was a convention of atheists, agnostics, and free thinkers. And I love that because that gives me that C of the pertinent ideas, if he were sought. Because for me, this is a living program, and it gives me possibilities, and people don't have to be of the same thinking, and it's not a religious thing, it's a spiritual thing, and we can bring a little bit of spiritual, but we're so open to that. And I just love that little blurb, and sometimes that's what it is atheist, agnostic, and free thinkers, because that's possible. People have sobriety and great lives and great example of Alcoholics Anonymous in their lives, and I seek that. So that gives me hope. So thanks. And that it's a power. It's a power. It's not the power. It's not the answer. For me, that's really helpful. So anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Glad you're all here.
Yeah, we have a whole listing for atheist agnostic meetings in BC. Yeah, there's a few. Gabrielle.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle. I'm an alcoholic.
I love this. There's so much good stuff in here. And I think what really stood out to me the most was how, we come in broken, or I came in so broken and not even sure if there was a solution for me. I mean, I was trying to figure out if I was an alcoholic or not. I had a lot of issues other than drinking, and I didn't understand that is alcoholism, like emotionally I was such a mess, and I drank because that made me feel better. So anyways, I didn't know if I was really even an alcoholic. I didn't know if this was going to be a solution for me at all. But going through the first part of the book, I identified. And then I just remember reading this for the first time and having that sense of like, there actually could be something that might help me, because I had tried so many things to help myself, and it might have worked for maybe a month or so. And then I felt like my things were just falling apart. And I'm just so grateful that this program exists. I really feel like these steps and this solution was something that God gave us as alcoholics, and worked through Bill Wilson to come up with this. And the solution is really in the steps. I tried to do AA before, just going to meetings, and I didn't get the solution. I didn't get these promises that they talk about. And when I finally did, I was rocketed into that fourth dimension. I had that spiritual awakening, and that's where all the freedom lies. So I don't know. I do also remember feeling afraid that I wasn't going to be able to stick with it, because my mind was doubting. I didn't have that connection with God. It was like I didn't quite have that before I worked the steps, and my mind doubted that this would work. And there would be times where I absolutely did not want to do this. And my sponsor kept reminding me, it doesn't matter. Whatever your brain's telling you, whatever you're feeling, that really doesn't matter. That's the good news, right? All you need to do is do these steps and work through the process. And as long as you take the action and demonstrate that you're willing and open, and demonstrate that you're honest, it'll work just the same, even if you don't feel like doing it. And then the thoughts and the feelings changed along the way. So I was just grateful for that I didn't have to have my head on board. I just had to take these steps. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you so much. Marianne.
Hi, friends. I am an alcoholic. My name is Marianne. Hi, everybody. That was a great share. I've got written down here the definition of a balker, because I ended up being a balker and went out after 19 years of sobriety and almost died. So the person that took me through this book had me write down, balker is a closed-minded but open-mouthed, uses belligerent denial to avoid working the steps. And that hit me right between the eyes. I was so twisted up and so desperate that I was taken through this, and then went out and got William James's book. And if you've ever seen that book, it is not an easy read. So the person who took me through it had me just put 3 things on the top of my spiritual experience page: a profound alteration in my reactions to life, a personality change, and a transformation. And then I also have the how of the program: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, and the essentials of the program. And then take the action. So yeah, I know the first page that we read told me again today how perception is my problem. So my best thinking got me here. I have to use this book and you people to cut through the BS in my head. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One of my original mentors also was like, count to 8, because I reacted like you didn't even know. I was just like, and literally I was like an idiot for 3 months, and I would have to stop and count to 8 in my head before I was allowed to say anything. And it just gave me that time to absorb and shift my thinking. Oh man. Bonnie.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bonnie. I'm an alcoholic. This appendix, spiritual experience, was a life changer for me, because I was that gal who came into the program with contempt. went through the whole process of detoxing and the treatment center and everything. I ended up in AA. I couldn't get past the word God. And so after a year and a half in AA, I left because I didn't have any concept whatsoever of God. I thought it was a bunch of BS. Even trying to change it to higher power didn't help me. It's not the way I was raised. We never talked the word God. It was never even a piece of my language. And so I found that very difficult. So I went out. I did not drink. I didn't drink because I didn't want to lose my son and because I was diagnosed with cirrhosis. And I knew to drink was to die. It was as simple as that. So I went along, but I had no emotional sobriety whatsoever. All I was a drunk without the booze. I had the same kind of reactions to life, same kind of behavior, relationship problems, on and on and on. Really a mess. I eventually came back about a year and a half ago, and I ran into I got a sponsor about after the first 6 months, said that I'd come back. And she was very smart. What she did was because of course the first thing out of my mouth is, well, I don't know how to do this because the solution has one big part in it that I can't seem to get. So she took me to Appendix 2, the spiritual experience. And what it did for me was it softened the concept of the spiritual experience, which allowed me and gave me the time to just kind of let it, rattle around in there and listen to people and all the rest of it. Eventually, I got to the point where I thought, okay, I still couldn't say I believed. I got to the point where I thought, what don't I believe? And that's where the shift came, because I realized that I actually do not believe that the nature, which I love and which amazes me, and the animals, which I love and which amaze me, and all the interconnections and the roots that, the tree talks to the tree through the roots and all of that, just appeared out of a big boom or big bang. I couldn't get that. So that meant I had to believe in creative design. And then I was able to move on from there. And I'm so grateful that my sponsor was smart enough to take me to this explanation of what a spiritual experience is. So today, now we're at about a year later, I pray every morning that I can walk in faith and not in fear. I'm a big gal on fear. So I can't say that I'm successful in that every day, but when I do walk in faith that a higher power knows a lot more about what I should be doing, what kinds of decisions I'm making than I do, then I get the promises of this program. It's like night and day. I feel the promises come into my life. And so that's the difference for me. I still have those fearful days, but man, it's nothing like it was before. And I am so grateful. And this is the first time I've been in this particular meeting, and I love it. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the whole scientific theory and stuff. I'm a scientific girl. I'm an educated girl, and I was like, okay, chicken and the egg. And I tell that and when I do weird gnostics with my girls, I'm always like, okay, the chicken and the egg, like who came first? Where did it come from? God had to do something there. It just makes sense. Trish.
Thanks. I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. My spiritual experience, to look back on it, when I see what's in this page 25, we found much of heaven, and we've been rocketed into a fourth dimension. Well, when I got into the group, it was just all God's divine timing, or the Great Spirit, or whatever you want to call him. And I was on my way home, and I was in and out of cell service, and I was on a bush road in Alberta, and all of a sudden my phone came on, and I pressed the right button on my screen, because I hardly ever do when I'm driving. And I was my friend from Australia, and she'd been here for 2 weeks, and she had a wedding, and she said, "Oh, I want to come to your place, but I don't have a car." And I said, "Well, where are you?" And she sent me her address, and I was like 15 minutes away. I picked her up, brought her to my home, and when she got there, she goes, "Oh, I really need a meeting. Haven't been to a meeting in 2 weeks," and she was 10 years in the program. And I said, "Well, find one, and I'll come with you." Right? She said, "It doesn't work that way," but she found one, and it was that night, and it was an open meeting, and that's how I got into the program, was through God's will and through divine timing. And I went to the meeting with her just because it was open, and I went, "Holy cow, this is where I'm supposed to be." And thanks for listening, because that was, looking back, was a big one for me. I'm blessed. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Trish. Yeah, and the boys call that God's fingerprints, right? I hear Tony say it all the time. You can just see all those fingerprints of God. But when we're blocked from the sunlight of the Spirit, we miss those signs, right? Now looking back, I'm like, wow, I can put all the pieces of God's puzzle together, and isn't it wonderful? Lisa.
Hey, Carol, and good morning, and this has to be something we're in concurrence regarding Real Alcoholic Lease. I guess what we're in concurrence with is on page 25 at the very top. 4 of my favorite words in this whole text are, "There is a solution." And further down on page 25, it says, and I'll end with this, "The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. He has commenced to accomplish those things for us which we could never do by ourselves." How true is that for me in my life, especially today? Thank you, women. Welcome to the new people, and thank you for your lead, Kimberly.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, and I had a sponsor that used to be like, "Where is God?" And I used to think God was all around here, but no, like we hold God and he enters into our hearts. And that was a big learning curve for me as well. Jackie.
Hey, I'm Jackie and I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for calling on me. Wow, they're such powerful shares. I don't know that I can add a whole lot to that. You know, all I can say is that before that spiritual experience, I thought I had it all. You know, my program included, you know, throwing myself into work, religion, church, the Bible, intense sports, and having no time for anything else. It wasn't until that spiritual experience, and I was so bullheaded before. I closed my mind to anything that wasn't of me, that wasn't created by me. And that got me to the drain. You know, it got me to where I was, and I just wanted out. It was just miserable. But fortunately, desperation did bring me to a place where I became willing. And that spiritual experience is powerful, because even today in my lowest times, it still draws me back and hinders me, hinders me from letting my disease talk, and instead going inside and not impulsively responding to life and to things. And I'm grateful, and I didn't realize I wasn't in the sunlight of the Spirit. I had no clue. And I didn't realize how dark it was there. So, thanks.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Bonnie.
Hi, I'm Bonnie. I'm an addict alcoholic. Thank you. I've been to this meeting now. This is my second time. It's wonderful, just wonderful. And we're thinking of doing this breakdown of the big book in our women's meeting that we also have to supplement this. Thank you. I just wanted to see how it also talks about how we had seen the change in others. You know, without others, it's so critical to this program, right? Without others, where would I be? I need to work with others. I need to see the change in others. We have a couple of women in our group that are just growing and changing and blossoming, and it's so fabulous to see, you know. And the promises are what I'm striving for, and that rocketed into the 4th dimension. I know what it is, and I feel it. And I would have to say that my spiritual experience, the first one ever, was I struggled for a year getting sober. And when that desire to drink was lifted, I was so amazed. I mean, you'd think, somebody had handed me, the world. I was so awestruck by the fact that it had been lifted, and I'm just, the obsession was gone, and that's incredible. I mean, that's a huge spiritual experience for me, and that's why I keep coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, ladies, let's do a quick little look. If anybody has a physical hand up and has a desire to share on this page or the spiritual experience. No. Okay, so we're going to end our chat today. Oh, wait, Lisa's waving her hand again. Lisa, you got something?
I am.
Okay.
Hi, I am. Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Okay, cool. It's Lisa, Lisa Alcoholic. I have something because I had to take a doctor's phone call there. I've heard said before, and it's come out of my mouth too, regarding the last paragraph before the Herbert Spencer quote on page 568 about we find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable. And I've said myself that I've had the whoa and I've had the ow. I haven't always had the how at the same time. And that's what I wanted to say on the how.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. And just to close out this discussion too, and kind of in light on what Bonnie was saying, where it does say that, we've seen people who have had this happen to them. And that's that hope, right? And that's the hope that I've said in other times that brings the willingness, the open-mindedness, and the honesty is we need to see it in other people of whom have had this solution and their problem solved. And that is the key that opens the world up for us through that honesty, the willingness, and the open-mindedness. We normally end late, so today we'll cut with this page. Thank you guys all so much. We'll continue on the There Is a Solution the next time we meet.